Hi, I'm George with Amateur Logic and Ham Nation, and I've got my buddy Ray Novak here from Icom America. Hi, Ray.
Hello, George. Hello, everybody out there.
Yeah, welcome to the shack. You know, last time we got together, we looked at some mobile rigs. This time, we're going to take a look at a really nice bass rig. It's the IC7700. I recently put one in my rack here, and I've been impressed, Ray. I have to say, this is quite the radio. What is the target audience for the 7700?
The 7700 is the little brother to the 7800, the ultimate DX contest radio. But there's a lot of contesters as well as DXers that love the 7700 just for the form factor and the simplicity of just having the single receiver.
What's different between the 77 and the 78? A second receiver on the 7800, right?
That's the only difference between the two. They're both high performance receivers in the 7800. As you'll see in the 7700, that the performance was the primary design factor in the radio. It's a dual conversion receiver, so there's less conversions for internal phase noise and also other internal areas to inject noise into an incoming signal. But just having just the single, and it's a price point radio as well. Somebody that would want that, and we do see a couple of SO2R contesters that instead of using the 7800 with the two receivers, they go with two of the 7700s.
Yeah.
And with the lockout switches and that, so they have two completely independent receivers, so they can do receiver diversity as well as two transmitters as well. And
with the 200 watts output, you know, normally I run an amplifier on 80 meters at night, and with the 200 watts here, there's a lot of nights I don't even turn on my amplifier now. I don't need 700 or 800 watts to make that contact. I can easily do it with two when 100 just wouldn't quite cut it.
But one of the things that is similar between what I like to do contesting and you rag chewing is we both will be in front of a radio either with headsets on or through speakers for several hours at a time. At one of the field day events where I brought some of the 7700s and 7800s, I had a wife walk up to me that was familiar with ham radio but just couldn't understand why to spend that kind of money. And I just came off the radio for about 6 hours. Heavy pileup, heavy noise like what we see in field day. And my response was to her that being able to hold a conversation in a normal tone without having to repeat each other several times was the reason why the cost of the product.
Yeah.
Because hearing fatigue over a 4, 6, 8 hour period is something that really becomes noticeable, whether you have a headache or you just can't hear. Taking the filters and adjusting them so you take out that interference, that hiss, the white noise, and some of the guys up and down the band.
No, it really makes a difference. I mean, I know coming from a broadcast background, I was always concerned with listener fatigue. I mean, most of the program directors want it loud. Loud is all you want, but to me, no, I wanted it loud as I could get it, but still not make somebody's ears bleed in the process. You know, then they can listen longer. You know, you can hang in there longer when you're not forced. You might hear it on another receiver without good filters and maybe with fast AGC and stuff, but how long can you do that before you're just exhausted?
But one of the nice things, we do have the high-end radios with the 7800 and 7700. The nice thing about it is those design concepts are built in these radios and they trickle down to the other radios as well. One thing with the bigger radios, and when we looked at some of the smaller ones, people have commented about the menu systems and embedding. And the thing is, when you go with a smaller front panel, less knobs, less controls, you got to put them somewhere.
Yeah.
And over time, you might not see at the very beginning, but over time you'll dig in and want to make some adjustments or some tweaks to the radio, and you have to go somewhere for it.
Right. If we start over here in the top left-hand corner, everyone will know what this button is right here. Of course, that's a power. Right below it's transmit, and that's the same as push to talk or pressing the key, depending on which mode you're in. This one has an auto tuner already built in it. You can see I've got it engaged right now. So I don't really have to mess with my manual tuner up here if I'm not going to be using my amp. A timer now. Why would I need a timer?
Some of us have our radios right by our bed. That could be your alarm clock to come on.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Of course, headphones. We know what that is. electric key, that's for a CW key.
Yes, sir.
All right. Of course, microphone. You'll notice I don't have a microphone plugged in here. Since I run external microphone and some audio gear here, I'm just feeding the audio through the accessory port in the back.
Right, and also you can plug in a USB keyboard
Yes.
in the front here. Two USB ports for two different reasons. One could be used for your profiles. Second one's for a USB keyboard.
But I think this is the first one I've played with personally that has RIDI and PSK31, not only the decode but the encode as well. Monitor, is this for your monitoring your own audio through the headsets, or what is monitor?
You can hear your audio from the microphone, but you're not getting an RF sample of what you sound like going over the air.
Right. Well, yeah, and I think that's true with just about any rig. Of course, microphone and RF power here, that's the mic gain, and that's how much power we're putting out. Now, you notice I got the mic gain down. That's because I'm running my audio in through the accessory port in the rear, but having it right up front here makes it pretty nice. I don't have to go through any menu or anything. If I'm using the mic jack, I can quickly dial in how much mic gain I need right there.
Right.
AGC and squelch.
The AGC is a fun one.
Yeah, I noticed that. You know, most rigs, maybe they've got a couple of 2 or 3 speeds of AGC, but I pushed this button right here and I was kind of surprised to see what it did.
Right over here on the screen, you see the AGC. It's right now VR for variable, but when it's off, just like what you're saying, you got your slow, your fast, and your mid. So you hit the AGC VR, and then you can make the adjustments from fast to slow.
Now, starting back at the top, key speed and delay. I'm not a CW guy, but I think this has got something to do with CW, doesn't it?
It's a combination. You've got your key speed for how many words per minute that you're wanting to do.
Now, right below that, this is pretty nice too here, Ray. You've got buttons for noise reduction and noise blanker, but you've also got variable controls here for each of them. You don't have to go down into a menu to get to those.
You push and hold the noise blanker button. You then can adjust the depth and the width of the noise blanker.
You can work with that RF gain and the noise reduction here. You can just about eliminate that static in between transmissions. So of course on the display here we've got a row of function buttons across the left side and across the bottom here, and these change as you go in different functions of the radio or in different modes so that you're seeing what's appropriate at that time.
That's one of the things I like about the Icom HF design team's philosophy is we've heard about menus, and there's so many things in menus, and when do I use this, when do I use that? Why not take some of that out of the way? If you're in sideband, why put CW functions to sift through? If you're in CW, why go through the phone settings? You don't need equalizer settings or compression settings in CW. So why put it for you to filter through it?
Looking at this one here, antenna 1, there's 4 different antenna ports on the rear of this rig right here.
Push and hold it. You now have a complete antenna switch network.
The meter button here, this is pretty nice. I like this meter, but being able to select ALC or the compressor or the voltage of, this is the final stage, is that
Yes, sir.
correct? Or the current of the final stage. You know, I could look at those two and tell pretty quickly whether or not I'm looking at a bad antenna out there. Or
Push and hold it.
there's more.
So you've got everything right there, all your multimeter right there in front of you.
Compression off, and
Oh, that one's got multi things for it. You got your compression off and on, but if you push and hold it, that's your transmit bandwidth.
we've got the scope here.
The scope is got some real interesting functionality to it. We have 2 different modes to it. Center, which the frequency that you're operating on is the center of the scope. And F1 changes so we can look at the variable spans here. It's kind of like a fish finder.
Oh yeah.
Everybody now has a fish finder in their boat because it's no longer the fun, let's sit on the boat, toss a line out, maybe we'll catch a fish. Well, we can sit there and call out CQ all we want, or we can go look at a peak. There's a pretty nice signal there.
Mm-hmm. I believe that's a big old bass.
There you go.
And then of course the set, That allows me to set some functions for the scope here. We just looked at the edges there.
It'll allow you to set so many different things on it. And I'm going to take it off of the wide function. And you can put a mini scope up.
Mm-hmm.
Because the reason why I'm doing that is I want to show you some of the things that you can do with it. I can change any color that I want.
Well, that's pretty neat.
You've got your keyer,
where you can have pre-programmed in messages.
great for field day. More functions, your memory channels.
And you can see I've discovered that one and have put a few things in there.
Wait a minute. Nolans? Now we're into the set mode. We've got levels, accessories, display, time, and then others.
Mm-hmm.
The others is our laundry list, where regardless of what mode you're in, you're going to have these things in there. One of them is a calibration marker, your keyboard, how you want it to perform, your RS-232 function, and just some of those you set once and forget it. There's one real nice thing with the 7700 and 7800 is there Sony Philips IOs on the back of the radio. Allows you to do your digital modes using a Sony Philips sound card. When we came out with these radios, a big comment was about ground loops.
And that'll take care of a ground loop.
You don't have to worry about RF getting into your digital modes using those Sony Philips. And the sound cards are real cheap now.
I know what sideband is, and I know what CW is, and RIDI and PSK. So just plug in a keyboard and we're ready to operate RIDI. And of course we can do PSK with it as well.
Yes.
Basically the same thing. We got a display here, plug in our keyboard or use a memory keyer, and we're right in there on PSK without a computer. On here you can really tell how much better AM radio sounds than it does in the car or on a transistor.
Oh yeah.
Or anything else. Superb AM receiver. Of course it's got FM too.
We have an auto-tune function, so we can be a little bit off.
That's pretty neat. So it finds the carrier and tunes right to it. Voice recorder or voice memory.
If you miss a call sign, you can quickly hit play, and it will play back the last so many seconds, I think 20 seconds.
And then we get over here to this set of buttons here. This is a numeric keypad, of course, but it also lets you go straight from one band to the other without having to shuffle up and down through a menu. You can just go straight from 160 meters to 20 meters or wherever you want to go. We've talked a little bit about the filters, not a lot, but there's basically 3 different filters here, bandwidth that I can select through. I can have it really narrow for when there's somebody right next door just chirping in there, and completely eliminate them, or open it up wider, you know, for some rag chew, or just set it kind of medium there, which is good for the nets and stuff when the bands are pretty busy.
Go ahead and push and hold it for a moment.
Yeah, now here I can do some tailoring, can't I?
So we can come here for your filter 1, 3.6. So when you're rag chewing, you want them real wide.
Mm-hmm.
You can select the roofing filter that you want, whether it's 15, 6, or 3, and the shape of the roofing filter. It's good for teaching as well, by showing how you can shift the IFs in opposite directions to narrow it down.
And then following on down, of course, we have the notch. And
You've got the manual notch. The outer one's going to be your notch.
okay.
Now, one thing about the notch is you can select a wide, mid, and narrow on the notch as well.
Mm-hmm. So Ray, I think we finally figured out what all these knobs were for on here. I'm sure there's other things that we didn't cover. Thanks for showing me a little more about my IC7700 here. I've really been enjoying the radio ever since I installed it, but now I'm ready to get in and do some more advanced things. So I'm going to get on the air here in just a few minutes.